Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Giants, guys. I'm John Fennelly. This week, the Giants will open up their 2018 preseason schedule with a game against the Cleveland Browns at MetLife Stadium. Before we preview that game with Dan Schneier of 247Sports, we're going to tell you about our schedule coming up this season. We will be doing 2 to 3 podcasts a week, and you'll be able to find us on iTunes and all the other major podcasting platforms. But if you really need to find us, go to giantsguys.com or at giantsguys on Twitter to get all of the latest information. Dan, how you doing today?
What's up, John? Happy to be here for the second time on the podcast. So I'm glad to be here and talk some Giants football again.
Yes, and there's a lot to talk about. Starting with you and 247 Sports, you guys are credentialed for camp, and you've been on the sidelines, and you've been witnessing a lot of good things out there, especially the heat. There's been plenty of that. I've been through that drill a million times. I know that much. Well, under Pat Shurmer, things look like they're a little more professionally run. I may be taking this the wrong way. I haven't been out there myself, but from what I see, it looks like he has a very good structured plan, and that the players are really enjoying themselves. Am I picking that up correctly?
You are, John. I mean, the players, again, we have to keep in mind, practices are so much different these days. I was actually at an event 2 weeks ago in New York City. It was a Thuzio event, Legend Series with Phil Simms, and he was basically saying, like, he doesn't even think they practice anymore compared to what they used to do back in his day, what the practices were like, because he told an incredible story of one day when Lawrence Taylor kind of was in a bad mood and blew up an entire practice. But, you know, it is what it is these days with the way they practice, but what they do now is they focus on a lot of different specific things, a lot of different game type situations. They have something called special drill where I've seen them run twice now at practice, which is like one time it was run the team onto the field for the last second field goal. So it's very structured now with Pat Shurmer, and they have a lot of different drills going on. And the key thing really is, aside from just the structure of the practices, what you're seeing a lot of now, which you really haven't seen in the past with the Giants, is just a lot of different offensive personnel packages and formations on offense. There's tons of pre-snap motion. There's tons of movement behind the line of scrimmage, different types of fake screens, double screens. So it's very interesting to see a practice that you're not expecting when you go into it. And there's still a lot of things you learn every day and you see every day that you just didn't see coming.
Yeah, and that's something that wasn't there last year, the last couple of years, you know, with Ben McAdoo. You know, he had sort of like a cookie cutter offense where,
Right.
you know, everyone knew that even the defense where everyone was going to line up. It was kind of ridiculous. This year there's a lot of different looks, and I saw a couple of the plays, and it just looks like there's a lot of misdirection going on. It looks like the play action is back in play again. You know, of course, you have to run the ball successfully for that to really work, and we haven't seen that yet, but we will. And I think they will be able to do it, because they have different running backs. I think Wayne Gallman has looked very good. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. And, of course, Barkley and Stewart. You know, Stewart's a pro. I mean, he's going to come in. He's going to give you what he always gives you. He's not going to light up the league. He's not going to make the Pro Bowl. But he is a steady player who knows his job. And if you need 3 or 4 yards, you know, he's the guy. He's the kind of guy you put in the game to give your main guy a blow and you know, eat up the clock if you have a lead or something like that. So he's the perfect guy. I think they're overpaying him a little bit, but I think it's worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on there. I mean, what's interesting to me is that all 3 backs have looked really good so far in camp. And you said it best with Stewart. Not only is he a guy who's going to get you that tough yardage and short yard situation, but he also is by far and away the most experienced and most successful pass protector on this team in this camp. And sure, Shurmer has praised Barkley's pass protection. And I've seen, you know, there was one play in practice where Eli Manning hit Sterling Shepard on a deep corner route, and it wouldn't have been possible unless Saquon Barkley absolutely stonewalled Landon Collins, who was screaming down on a safety blitz. So he's been great there too. And Pat Shurmer talked about that earlier this week, how impressed he was in pass protection. But still, you're never going to be as good as a veteran like Stewart, who's been around the game for so long, who's seen all the different defensive looks and different blitzes, and who can pick up what his quarterback wants him to do in pass protection and all the quick changes and audibles before the snap after, Eli Manning, which he does a great job of, sees something that he needs to change. And so for that reason alone, I think Stewart's going to be a big value. But what's been most interesting to me about the running back rotation so far is that it has been a rotation so far. I mean, you've seen Barkley take some first-team reps, but not all of them. Stewart's mixing in, Wayne Gallman's mixing in, and as you said, he looks good as well. And I'm just interested to see how that's going to play out in the regular season, because if you look back at Shurmur's past, taking a specific look at the 2017 season, Dalvin Cook, who was not as accomplished of a pass protector coming into the NFL as Saquon Barkley was, just straight up, and he was good, but he wasn't at Barkley's level. He didn't have Barkley's lower body size and the low frame to really hold up in pass protection. And yet, once he got rolling in that Vikings offense before the unfortunate ACL tear in I believe, week 4 or week 5, he was taking almost every single touch and almost every single snap. Shurmur leaned on him, and I still go back to what Shurmur said after the draft, right after he selected Barkley, and he said, listen, if he can pick up those pass protection schemes, and if he can do all the things we asked him to do, I can see him operating in a Le'Veon Bell, like workload. So I'm most interested to see how that shakes out, and if what we're seeing at camp with that running back rotation actually doesn't play out in the regular season.
Yeah, you're going to have to be able to pass, protect, and block if you want to stay on the field for 3 downs. And, he knows that. And you mentioned the lower body of Saquon Barkley. I don't think anybody has thighs like that. I call him Saquads, right? He is definitely a strong kid, and we're all eager to see him play this Thursday night against Cleveland. I don't know how much he'll be on the field, but I think he'll get a couple of series in before they give way to the other guys, and we'll get a little inkling of how good he possibly can be, or how open this Giants defense could be. Getting back to you going to camp, I just wanted to ask you your impression of how did the Giants receive you, and what was your overall experience like? I mean, you got to the facility. How did the other media people treat you? How did the Giants treat you? Because there's a lot of conflicting reports. I haven't been over there this year from some other people that have gone there, that they said that they really didn't have a lot of direction when they got into place. Did you have that experience?
So actually, John, my experience was completely different. Going in, I was definitely a little bit nervous because it's taken us so long to get in there for 247 CBS Sports, even with a parent company like CBS Sports on our backs. But you know what? I got in there, and I actually thought it was great direction there, and I'll get into that in a minute. But to me, it just really, and I tweeted about this yesterday, and this is the truth. I wasn't just trying to suck up or anything. I mean, I truly believe that this is an A-plus organization with how they deal with their reporters. I've talked to a bunch of other people who work at 247 Sports. Our Steelers beat reporter was at camp all last week, and he told me, listen, they went crazy on anybody who pulled out their phone at all during practice to take any video or to tweet anything. And he said, I don't want to dive too into what they do over there, because just for obvious reasons, but it wasn't the same kind of access to the players that the Giants offered. To me, it was really well structured. We got in there, we signed in with our credentials. I don't want to obviously go into too much detail, but they gave us a good chance to talk with the players one-on-one, to ask them questions during the allotted time for the players who were kind of speaking to all the reporters at the podium. And to me, it was a great experience all around, really A-plus stuff. I got incredible content from a video standpoint during practice, after practice with the players. I had a chance yesterday to go one-on-one with Rhett Ellison, who really is one of my favorite Giants players I've spoken to. And obviously, I haven't been at camp until this offseason, but I've done my best to try to organize interviews with players through their agents and through their PR companies that represent them for big events. So I've had a chance to speak with Engram, Shepard, a lot of the guys like that. But you know what? Rhett Ellison was really a joy to speak with. He gave me some great answers. He was down to earth, was happy to speak with me. So it was really just a great experience all around. And I actually had a chance to, get, not a lot of the Giants reporters obviously didn't, they might not receive you as well as you want to, or they're doing their own thing. I understand it. I get it. Listen, John, it's a competitive business. It makes a lot of sense, especially with where you see a lot of, people's attention now going to different websites that are coming up, like ours at 247 Sports, like the one you write for a Giants. There's a lot of different mediums now. So some of the old paper guys maybe not as, it's competitive. Let's just keep it at that. But you know what? I had a chance to meet and speak with a reporter who you actually speak with a lot, Chris from Giant Insider, and I don't want to botch his last name, so I won't even try to say it. But
Chris Besignano. That's
Besignano.
nice guy.
So And Chris was unbelievably nice guy. And listen, I didn't know for sure he was going to be because obviously, I hadn't had a chance to speak with any of the other reporters on the beat because it was a little intimidating from that standpoint with me showing up, into this deep into camp. But Chris was a great guy. And, we had so many great conversations throughout practice about this team, about where we see the team going during the 2018 season, about what happened in 2017, because he actually, got on the beat last October with Giant Insider. So there are great people you can meet. I have a couple other guys I just wanted to give a shout out to. Gerard, who covers the Giants for Black Sports Online, and Jason, who covers them for Elite Sports New York. Really down to earth, great guys doing the same thing we're all doing, just trying to get great content out to the fans in any way possible. So it was a great experience overall for me.
That's great to hear. I mean, I've been going there for years, and I've been covering the Giants since I think 1997.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, well, giving away my age too, but I've never had an issue. But there are some people who have, and I feel bad for them. But I'm glad that you're having a good time over there. I mean, it's a great career if you can make a career out of it. And the Giants are probably the top organization when it comes to receiving the media. But the media room is kind of small, and it could get chaotic. And there's a lot of people who, if they don't know what they're doing, could get lost really quick. Um, but let me tell you something. You're going to go over there, and the more times you go over there, the easier it's going to get. And I'm glad that you had a couple of good interviews. I know Rhett Ellison. I always found that guys who had relatives in the business or in sports always had a different perspective when it came to talking about their profession or speaking to the media. Rhett Ellison's father was Ricky Ellison, who was a linebacker for the 49ers in the 80s. I don't know if you knew that.
Right. Yep.
But I always found that out. Um, so I always thought that was a good thing. And I always looked at that when I said, you ever have somebody play in the NFL? I said, oh, my father was a baseball pitcher or something. Pat Mahomes, his father was a baseball pitcher. Jamal Adams with the Jets, his father was actually a Giant running back. So, guys understand the media, and, those are the best guys to talk to. So that's probably why Ellison came across so well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was just a great guy to talk to, and he was really, appreciative of what I was doing, which was awesome to see.
So let's get down to the Giants headlines this offseason. I know we have a lot of catching up to do. I just want to go over Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, he's the hot ticket all the time. Everybody wants to talk about Odell. Is he gonna play this week? Is he gonna sign a contract? The Giants actually hold all the cards. I mean, let's get into that first. They could keep him for this season and the next two after that if they really wanted to with the franchise tag. They probably won't do it that way, but they could. He only has the ability to hold out, and he doesn't have that in him, it seems. I mean, you saw him at camp. I mean, how animated was he?
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy who showed up day one of camp and practiced as hard as I've ever seen him practice. And he looks just as good. He looks better almost. It's crazy to say, but the training he put in this offseason was unbelievable. He put a lot of it on social media. But even besides that, this is a guy who every step of the way went out of his way to train in every aspect of this offseason, and it shows in practice. He's making so many plays, and yet they haven't even fully unleashed him yet in practice because they're playing it smart. So, the holdout, I don't see it in him this year, but that's also because, listen, Odell Beckham knows the history of the NFL for players who have held out and their success or lack thereof in the past, but he also understands the Giants' history. The Giants have a history of paying their best players in due time. You look back at the 2008 training camp right after the Giants won that Super Bowl, and Plaxico Burress had that contract that was, signed in 2005 and was paying him unbelievably low amount of money for what he was putting together on the field. That came, right after his Super Bowl, but also the NFC Championship game against the Packers, which he single-handedly, in my opinion, won that game for the Giants, and one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen from a wide receiver, especially in that weather. So, and what the Giants did was they gave him a new contract right before I think it was just a few hours, almost like 24, 42, 48, 72 hours, somewhere in that range before the regular season opener. If somebody asked me to predict what's going to happen this offseason, it's going to be that. Odell Beckham's going to get his contract just before the regular season opener, and you start to see a lot of stuff come out. Obviously, ESPN had a report 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, that The Giants were lowballing Beckham and offering him under $16 million a year. I don't believe that at all. Giants have never been a team that lowballs their offers for players, so I don't see them starting to do that now.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't know where that report came from. It could be, the agent trying to plant it there to get the negotiations along a little further.
Right.
But I think he's going to end up probably around an average of 18 million a year, which will put him up 5 years, 90 something million. He'll probably get half of that guaranteed, which for a wide receiver is pretty good, if you ask me. I mean, Mike Evans signed what, an $82 million contract, and only
Right.
38 of that is guaranteed. So
Exactly.
you figure Beckham, he's the new guy up for a contract. They're always going to go higher. So I figure, he'll probably get about the 90 or 92 million, probably half in guarantees, and I think that'll do it. Of
Right.
course, that the Giants are going to have to worry about how to pay everybody else after that. The extension won't start until next year. I mean, he'll get his money up front, his guarantees, part of it up front, but the actual cap hits will be
Right.
spread out. So he'll still get his 8.4 million this year, 8.4 million, but starting next year he'll get all of that, and he'll get his guaranteed money up front. That's how that works. So uh, it really won't hurt him this year, but next year they got Landon Collins ready to get paid, and they'll be wanting to go back into free agency to get people. They'll have to make a decision on Eli Manning at some point. He's only got this year and next year on his contract. I think they have time. They'll wait a little bit to see how he responds this year. If he plays well, uh, I have a feeling they'll try to extend him. I have a feeling they will. Since Brady and Breeze are playing into their 40s, he's healthier than both of those guys.
Right.
So, why wouldn't you want to keep him? I mean, I don't see the guys behind him, Webb or Lauletta, uh, being any more as really backups and maybe possibly starting somewhere down the road, but not right now.
No, not right now for sure. I mean,
No.
that's going to depend, obviously, John, a lot on what happens this season. He has enough tools now around him, and most importantly, the right offensive scheme for his skill set to succeed. But as far as those quarterbacks go behind him, I think you couldn't be more spot on. I mean, a lot of people, Giants fans love to be on this pro web train. Get him going. If Eli struggles, cut him. But there's flashes of brilliance from Webb in practice. There are, but when you're there every day and you start to see these full practices, you start to see a lot of mistakes as well that Eli Manning just doesn't make. Interceptions in the flat where he doesn't see the linebacker, and little things like that in a game would be magnified at a level that fans aren't used to because they've had Eli. And sure, Eli's thrown his fair share of interceptions over his career, but how many of those balls have been tipped? How many of those balls have come with backup wide receivers in the old offensive scheme with Gilbride, which was an option route scheme where the receiver and quarterback had to be on the same page or an interception was basically thrown. So to me, it's a lot of projection from the fans, and it's always green. Grass is always greener on the other side. But I agree with you. As long as Eli Manning plays at the level we can expect him to play with the new changes, I think he'll definitely be a candidate for a contract extension next offseason.
And there's one thing I tell people when they talk about Eli this, Eli that, he throws a lot of passes that are wobbly and they look like ducks. I said, in practice, he doesn't do any of that. He looks much better in practice than he does in games. And
Yeah.
I always, every once in a while, he'll look good in a game. Like that game against the Eagles late in the season, he looked very
Right.
good. That was Eli. He finally got back on the field and he was like, okay, I'm going to show you now. And
Right.
he did. I mean, with the team he had around him, he didn't have anybody left. He did a very good job. Almost beat the Eagles, and we know they went on to win the Super Bowl. So that was a good game for him. And this year, I think with the renewed offense, last year he threw the ball. I think his release time was 2.5 seconds. That was by design because for two reasons. One, he didn't feel he was going to be protected, and that's just the way the offense ran. It was a quick running offense. This year, I think he'll be holding on to the football a little bit longer. Let's hope the line protects him better. But the route tree is kind of truncated under McAdoo. They're kind of lengthening that route tree now. Did you see any of that?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it, John. There's so many factors that this is like watching this offense in practice versus McAdoo's is night and day. It's the only way you can describe it. There's everything's different about it. For starters, McAdoo's offense last season had almost every time in practice he came out in 11 personnel with three wide receivers and one tight end. And this season, the Giants have mostly used the 12 personnel. It was their, on the unofficial depth chart they
Right.
released, the co-starters were Rhett Ellison and Evan Engram. And
Correct.
not only that, you're just not seeing only 12, you're seeing a bunch of 11. You're seeing like the Giants used to run, you're seeing a bunch of 21 personnel and 13 personnel with three tight ends sometimes. And more importantly than that, it's just the pre-snap stuff that really stands out to me. Last year, even in that 11 personnel, even if we're putting aside, McAdoo's tendency to stay in one personnel, it was the same the receivers were lined up at the same distance. There would be the flanker and the split end all on the boundary, and then the slot receiver was always lined up the exact same yardage off of the boundary wide receiver and off of the end, the left tackle, or if they had a tight end in on that side. And this season, you're not seeing that. You're seeing some trips left formations with the wide receivers bunched up together. You're seeing even on the two receiver formations with two on one side, they're bunched together. You're seeing tons of pre-snap motion, like I talked about at the beginning, a ton of misdirection stuff, which to me is going to make such a major difference. Yesterday, I pointed out this play on Twitter, but this is something that just stood out so much to me because I just hadn't seen it in Ben McAdoo's offense. And there was a play where they started on the play with just Beckham lined up on the left side as the split end. And there was two tight ends on the field, Ellison and Engram. They were both lined up on the right side. And just before the snap, and Eli was under center, just before the snap, Ellison and Engram motioned back out to the left side of the formation with Beckham. Then they put Beckham in motion to the right side of the formation, and they snapped the ball and handed it off to Barkley. And Beckham, just before the snap, who was in motion right around the line of scrimmage, doubled back and blocked the backside penetration. Now, what's so interesting about this play is, one, it gives Barkley incredible amounts of space on a run play because all the defense's attention is on the left side of the field and where Beckham's moving. But if the defense doesn't give attention to Beckham, and if that backside penetrator just runs free to Barkley, they can fake the ball to Barkley on the play action and throw the ball to Beckham, who's now open in space in the flat. And we all know what he can do when he gets the ball in space in the flat. So this is just the kind of subtle differences you're seeing. A lot of misdirection, a lot of different motion. And Rhett Ellison, I like the way he described it to me yesterday when I talked to him. He said that Shurmur's offense is like musical chairs because everybody gets moved around all the time. Everybody's expected to do all different things on this offense, from vertical routes to short routes to lining up in different positions and in different personnel packages. And that's what we're seeing so far from Shurmur's offense.
Now let's talk about the defense. That's where the offense is exciting. We understand that, but the defense is going to be is going to take the Giants where they have to go this year. And I like a lot of the people they brought in. I like the defensive coordinator, James Betcher. You could speak to his ability to be a teacher. I know he's out on the field a lot. He's instructing guys. It's a new formation. We went from the 4-3 to the 3-4. But tell us what he's like. Tell us what a practice with James Betcher is like.
Yeah, Betcher's an interesting coach because he's out there every day at practice and really animated with the players. He really gets into what he's doing, what he's coaching, and that's because he runs a very exciting defense. These players really like it for a good reason because they're attacking all the time. It's not a lot of read and react on this defense. It's attack, attack, attack. Every position on that front seven can be attacking at any time, and a lot of the time, too. These defensive linemen last year, at times, you saw them just trying to kind of play. It was more of a two-gap scheme at times, and you saw these defensive linemen kind of holding up for, to create space for the linebackers to get through and playing the run. But now they're attacking upfield and blitzing. And my big worry before the season was, do the Giants have another pass rusher outside Olivier Vernon? Because for all the crap that Vernon gets, he's been easily the most dominant player on this defense in training camp. And that's not something that surprises me because I knew he would be. This is a perfect defensive scheme for him. The whole goal of this scheme is to get as many possible one-on-one matchups for your best pass rusher. But my worry was, will there be a second pass rusher? And while I do think a guy like Lorenzo Carter, who's really flashed in camp and recent practices, could be that guy, I really think it's going to be a group effort. And I don't think they need an elite number two in this defensive scheme because of the way the defense is designed. Anyone can get pressure at any time.
Yeah, and they brought in Connor Barwin, who is a veteran. He's like a 12-year veteran now, 11-year veteran maybe, and he's looked great. And he's been kind of a leader for guys like Carter and some of these other guys who have never played in a 3-4. And he seems to be like the perfect guy. I mean, he was waiting to sign with a quote-unquote contender, and he picked the Giants. So
Yeah.
does he know something we don't?
Well, I think with Barwin, part of it is that he loved his time, and I know Giants fans might hurt to hear this. He loved his time in the Philadelphia era. He loved playing in the NFC East. He loved playing for the fans fans who really, really care. And he knew he'd be getting that with the Giants. He knew he'd be getting a first-class organization. And he has played in the past with Bill McGovern, the Giants linebackers coach, and Pat Shurmer was also on that staff, so he knew what he was getting with Shurmer. So, it was a really good fit for him from that standpoint. And at the same time, he's been, just like you said, really, really, really good in camp for a lot of reasons. One, because he's a veteran leader, and Lorenzo Carter talked about how he learns from him every day. But also because he goes all out at these practices. In these 11-on-11 team drills, he doesn't play it like a practice. Like some people, don't play practice in games at a different level. That's not Connor Barwin. He's going all out at all times, and he's been super impressive so far.
Talk about B.J. Hill, the rookie third rounder out of North Carolina State, who the Giants are now starting at one of the defensive end spots up front. He's been impressive from day one, from what I understand, and a lot of people are saying he doesn't look anything like a rookie. I mean, he's picked everything up and run with it.
Yeah, you're exactly right, John. And then the other day, Damon Harrison actually said that he was the most athletic lineman on the team. And when I asked Hill about that yesterday after practice, he was happy to get that kind of praise from Harrison, but at the same time said, watch out because Harrison's incredibly athletic for his size, which is actually true. And we're going to actually get to see that a little bit this year because he's not just going to be sitting playing the run every down. He's going to be attacking too. But like you said about Hill, really from day one, this is a guy with an incredible work ethic, was the leader on that and captain of that defensive line room at NC State with talents like Bradley Chubb and I'm forgetting the guy's name who worked out for the Giants who tore his ACL. I'm blanking on his name, but he was another high draft pick or was supposed to be Contavious Street and Justin Jones. So this was
Justin
a four-man.
Jones, yeah.
Right. So this was a really talented line, and yet he was the leader of that line with guys like Bradley Chubb. So that kind of shows every day he's working hard. And, here's a guy who, as Dave Gettleman said when he drafted him, he just wasn't used that often as a pass rusher at NC State, but we believe that he can do it. And his three-cone drill time was actually faster than Bradley Chubb, despite being 40 pounds heavier. And if you look into the metrics, and some people, are fans of metrics, some people aren't, but the one metric that I think actually has proven over time to have some results as far as the combine goes, this is the only one in my opinion, and it's the three-cone time drill for defensive linemen. If you really look at it, all of the best pass rushers did well in that drill for the most part, really in that 80th, 90th percentile pass. So, B.J. Hill's a guy who now he gets to attack, now he gets to blitz, now he gets to rush the passer, and he's excited about it. He said, I loved his line about yesterday. He said, I love the violence of this defensive scheme. So that was interesting to hear.
Let's talk about Alec Ogletree because he looks like he could be the captain of this defense. I think it's a coin flip between him and Landon Collins. I don't know who they're going to name. They could name them both, but how is he faring? Is he a leadership type? Is he a leader out there on the field? He gets to wear the radio helmet, but is he the vocal type? Because he's in the middle of that offense, and last year B.J. Goodson started out and did a pretty good job, but now it's going to be Ogletree's job.
Yeah, I think John, you bring up a good point. I think this is one of the main reasons they brought him in, which people, haven't given enough credit to because he was the captain of that Rams defense last year, a very, very vocal leader. And while, Goodson inherited and stepped into that role last season, it's a little different when you hear it from somebody like Goodson, who was at that time entering his second season last year, or was it his second or third?
Second.
I believe his second, and now he's entering his third. It's a little different when you're a player and you hear it from somebody like Goodson, and then somebody like Ogletree, who was 2 years removed from just being a second-team All-Pro linebacker with 136 tackles. So it's a little different, and again, as you said, I mean, this team needed a vocal leader and more of a veteran leader presence. I mean, Damon Harrison has been pretty clear about that's not him. That's not who he's going to try to be. He's not going to be somebody who's not. And that's fine. But, you don't have to step into that role. But they've really been missing that type of player since Justin Tuck. It's pretty, if you really look at it, that's the last time they had that type of vocal leader. And sure, he was a defensive lineman, but Ogletree's really done a great job taking over that role as the veteran, been in the league for a while, guys that, a type of player that players will listen to.
We got about 2 minutes to go, so let's talk about surprise players at camp in your eyes?
Sure. So the biggest surprise for me is the rise on the depth chart for Curtis Riley. Here's a guy who played cornerback to start his career with the Tennessee Titans. The defensive back coach who followed him over to the Giants this offseason. You really liked him, but decided, let's convert him to safety, see what he's got there. Played safety last season. And now he's moved all the way up to number 1 on the depth chart, the free safety position. While that's still an open battle, I think Riley is in my mind the favorite to win that job. And then some of the other guys who have really impressed me, and this guy hasn't gotten that much press just yet, but I think he'll make a bigger impact than people think. And that's third-year tight end Jarrell Adams. And Adams had a really great practice on Saturday where he caught a red zone touchdown, soared high for it from Eli Manning. And when I talked to Rhett Ellison about him, Ellison's eyes lit up, and Ellison was like, Ellison basically just said what I said. He's not getting that much attention, but keep an eye on him because when he puts it all together, he has flashes in practice of just sheer dominance as a run blocker. And remember, he was the fastest tight end in his draft class, ran a 4.64 40-yard dash. So it's sometimes for these guys it takes a little longer. He was always viewed as a raw prospect, and entering year 3 is a big year for these NFL players, especially at the tight end position, a really difficult position to learn. As players have told us in the past, like it's the toughest position they think because not only you have to learn all the routes a receiver would have to learn, you have to learn a lot of blocking that the offensive lineman would have to learn. So I think he'll be a big surprise for Giants fans this season as well.
All right, talking to tight ends, last topic. Evan Engram apparently still has the dropsies. Every time he drops a pass, there's a lot of groans. What's the rumblings around that? I know he talked about, trying to improve, staying late, catching balls from the jugs machine, working on his hands. But what do you think his issue is? Is it concentration, or is it just the kid just can't do it, or what?
I mean, I'll tell you what. When I was there at practice, he was actually one of the 2 guys I saw. It was him and I believe it was Marcus Bundy, the wide receiver, number 86. And they were working on the jugs machine right after practice, and they were there for a while. He's trying to get this, fixed. He's trying to get this improved, and I don't exactly know what it is, if it's a matter of concentration or not, but there was a lot made of his drops during his rookie season. But remember, he was targeted over 100 times, triple-digit targets, and there was nobody else for the defense to focus on in the passing game. So it's not like he had a lot of contested catch situations that were ruled as drops. So for me, I think, he will work on this with time through the jugs machine work, through any of the other, training that he does to improve his hands. And he's as committed as a player as you've seen come into this organization, and they've done that now 2 years in a row with him and Barkley with their first-round picks, get guys who are not only talented but also incredibly hard workers. So I think he'll work this thing out.
All right, Dan. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. You'll come back soon, right?
Definitely. Whenever you want to have me on, John, I'd love to be on. So let me know.
Okay, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, John.
Okay.